Hey guys, so welcome to the first lesson of our brand new unit on trigonometry. Especially in this lesson, lesson number one, I posted some extra videos, one of trigonometry stuff you should already know, but just in case you have forgotten, that stuff is there on how to use the trig ratios, and it goes over SOHCAHTOA and how to label the triangle. So if you forget, go check that video out first before you do this one. But in terms of where we're going to start with some primary trig ratios, SOHCAHTOA, and 90-degree triangles. And we're also going to look at some special angles. So these are we're going to do two triangles that you have to kind of memorize them. I had to memorize them when I was going to school, but I also remember like a lot of the times on my tests, I would write right at the top, I would draw these two little triangles right away before I looked at any questions, just so that I would not forget them and I'd have them there for reference. But they're not bad once you get used to drawing them and memorizing them. But you guys can just write them on a sheet and have them handy, which is kind of nice. So here we go. Here's our first triangle. This is your 45-degree triangle, and because one of the angles is 45, the other one automatically is 45 because it has to add up to 180. Now, because the angles are the same, the sides are also the same, and the ratios for this are 1 and 1. So because they're the same, I just make them 1. And our hypotenuse is root 2. So root of 1 plus 1. And then I just remember this. The sine of the 45 degrees is 1 over root 2. Cos of 45 is 1 over root 2. So opposite or adjacent over hypotenuse. And our tan 45 is 1 over 1, which just equals 1. So these three, you kind of, again, you just have to remember them. It's going to make more sense when you watch some of the other videos and when we get into the problems and stuff. But this is our trigonometric ratios for the 45-degree triangle. The other triangle that we have to, so these are what you would memorize. But again, even if you just remember this part, if you just remember how to draw the triangle, it's pretty helpful. Let's move on to the other triangle. So the 45 one's nice and easy. The other one is our 60-30 or 30-60 triangle. Now, this one's interesting, and I kind of remember this one a couple different ways. 30 is, across from the 30 is side 1. Our hypotenuse is 2, and then this side is root 3. I don't know why, I just remember that the 2 is across from the 90 degree and 1 is across from 30 degree because 30 is the smallest, so that's where the smallest number goes. So for this one, we're going to get two different things. I'm going to move them over. So I'll do the 30 degrees. Sine 30 is 1 over 2. Cos of 30 is root 3 over 2. And tan of 30 is 1 over root 3. And then the 60 degrees ones, sine of 60 is root 3 over 2. Cos 60 is 1 over 2. And tan 60 is just root 3. It's root 3 over 1, but you can just write it as root 3. These one, again, you kind of just have to remember them. And as I said, like when I was going through these ones, I just remembered the triangle, because if I could remember the triangle, it was much easier for, and SOHCAHTOA, super easy to remember. Again, you're probably going to want to have this as reference. We're going to use these angles in like the next 3 lessons. All right. One of the things that we do with our special angles is we use them when we're talking about our reference angles and we get into our different quadrants. So let's move down. And I'm going to go over what is called the cast rule. If you haven't seen this, there is a really good video that I also posted that kind of goes over some of those cast rules. But one of the things that's really good to remember when we're doing trig is we have a quadrant system where this is the x-axis. I know you guys have seen this. And this is the y-axis. Now, when we're doing this, this is quadrant 1. This one is quadrant 2. Down here is quadrant 3. And this one refers to quadrant 4. Now, when we're talking about angles and where they are on this coordinate plane, we always start here at 0 degrees, and we're going to go in this direction. This is 90 degrees here, 180 degrees here, and 270 down here. And you always go in the counterclockwise direction. Okay, so when we use these angles, let's do this. You might have this angle here, this small one is our reference angle. Okay, it's not always that one, like you could have it over here, but it's always the smallest part. So this one is also our reference angle. So it's whatever the smallest angle is. Now, when it comes to these special angles, we're going to use them when we move into different quadrants, or we're looking at obtuse angles, angles that are bigger than 90. So what the other thing that happens, and this is why we call it the cast rule, is because it tells us what the sign, positive or negative, of each of the primary trig ratios are. So it tells us whether sine, the sign of sine is positive or negative, the sign of cosine is positive or negative, or the sign of tangent is positive or negative. And the reason they call it the cast rule is because this one is C, A, S, T. So it's kind of a way to remember that whatever the letter is, that's what's positive in that quadrant. So in this one, cos is positive, sine is negative, tan is negative. So if you're doing any of the angles in this quadrant, in quadrant 4, which is your angles between 270 and 360, Your cosine of that angle is going to be positive. Sine of that angle is negative. Tan of that angle is negative. Between 0 and 90, they're all positive. A stands for all. They're all positive. Sine, cos, and tan, all positive between 0 and 90 degrees. If you're guessing right now so far, this is the S, which means that sine is positive, and the other two are negative.